Some newspapers have called acid house music a sinister and evil cult which lures young people into drug taking.
Since its creation, house music and techno music have dropped itself off on the doorsteps of different locations around the world.
The whole point of a rave is to meet as many people as you possibly can.
Some places received it with open arms, almost better than the places that it was originated in, but other places served as a breeding ground for new subgenres. France got their hands on house and techno music, but what they didn't do was imitate it. They expanded on the original thought. They also were able to keep up with the subgenres emerging around them in other countries and the UK. I'm not trying to give you a whole history lesson, so I'll put a link down in the description of this video so you can get some further details on what's going on here. With artists like Daftpunk, Phillipe Zdar, Justice, Cassius, Stardust, it's hard to not hear what was so intoxicating and infectious about the sound that broke through to the international level. But it was these artists that led the style and developed the original sound. And it's funny to call it an original sound because it does sound so much like disco music at times. In this video, I'm going to break down how I tried to achieve this sound in Ableton in 2025, using a couple reference tracks and a little bit of creativity. The song in this intro is what we're going to be breaking down too. So if you want to check that out, it's going to be on my Bandcamp. It's called Want Your Love. What's up, everybody? This is the project file to the song that you heard in the intro. It's a little French touch, French house-inspired track that I made. It all kind of started unintentionally because I was just jamming guitar one day and I was playing some James Brown, soulful, even like Prince-style funk guitar, and it all led to this. I decided to add drums to it and set it in a BPM that was appropriate to a dance track. I know the project file looks pretty extensive, but don't let that fool you. I started with a blank project file, and I just added one track at a time as I felt was needed. Let's just get started with breaking down the individual channels here in this project file, so I can show you really how I dialed in this sound. There's plenty of stuff that I would have changed about this, but I'm just going to break down the project file as it is right now. So this is the guitar loop. I'm just soloing the group, which is just 3 different guitar tracks. I call it the A section because there's a whole other section that comes in, which is just another guitar variation, and that'll be the B section, and that just ends up picking up for the rest of the track, and it never goes back to that current loop that we're hearing. On the guitar group, I have a phaser effect giving it that really unique sound. But then I also have some compression going on before that and some simple EQing to take out harsh frequencies. The kick drum was simple. It was 4 on the floor. I have a gate at the end of the chain making the kick drum sound tighter than it actually is. This glue compressor adds a little bit of punch. The drum bus fills in some missing frequencies. And the corpus effect actually has a preset called kick tight, and that is so legendary if you need low end real quick. I also used a utility effect at the end of that kick chain to turn the bass frequencies mono to have a cleaner mix. After the guitar loop and the kick drum loop were established, it was time to figure out a good bass groove. Pretty much keeping disco in mind and trying to imitate a disco bass line. I just kind of followed the root notes of the chords that I was playing on the guitar. It was all in the rhythm that created the groove. In order to make the bass sound fat, I duplicated the bass, and on one of the channels of the bass, I took out all the high end and only focused on boosting that low end fullness. And then on the other channel of the bass, the one that I duplicated, I cut out all the low end. This is what that sounded like. The one with only low end. And then I blended the two together until I liked how it sounded as a whole. I did that so I could focus on the low end and make that sound full without sacrificing any of the higher frequencies that might just disappear on your phone speakers or cell phone speakers. This high guitar part actually is played by a bass VST. Usually I use it for bass, but in this case it was a real cool way to make a rhythm guitar part. I used a MIDI keyboard to play this plucky part in. I was just trying to play that guitar counter melody rhythm thing that usually happens in funk music or soul. It was sounding good by itself, but I put a chorus effect to make it sound like it was giving it some good movement. All right, I just previewed all those drum sounds there, and as you can tell, it's a good mixture of techie, electronic sounding drums and acoustic cymbals and stuff like that, making it sound like a real drum kit. But right here, this is the main thing that gave it all a groove, which was a drum loop that has a lot of the high end and low end filtered out. I've got a clap that goes in between having reverb on it and not having reverb on it, and it just kind of randomly goes between it throughout the track. Oh yeah, this little wood block has a little 4-bar moment. What the heck's going on? I should have given it more time to shine. Oh yeah, I have this random hi-hat down here too. Just backing up what's already going on at certain times. Once you have a track established and it seems like it's just looping and looping and it's groovy, you might be ready to find a lead sound. I had the idea of taking a random sample and putting it into the keyboard and trying to play around with it as if it was a piano. This is what that sample was that I loaded into the keyboard. I ended up just playing a really high octave of it with like a free jazz solo kind of feel. And it ended up sounding really cool. Something about it sounded so shiny and bright. Next, to continue the disco feel, I went with some strings. After the track develops a little bit, you get to experience the sweetness of the strings. The strings are only there for certain times of the track. I thought it added a nice triumphant, celebratory kind of feel. Well, it's time to show you the vocals that I put on here. The track was still so minimal before I added this. I mean, at the end of the day, I wanted it to be minimal so it can just groove, but it was too minimal, so I added some vocals. And I think that's an essential part of trying to make a French house or a French touch kind of sound. I don't have a talk box and I don't really know how to run the vocoder, which makes me want to learn how to do that and share that with you. But I tried to imitate that all with a little bit of vocal layering and extreme vocal processing. And this is me singing all this too, by the way. I just didn't feel like finding a sample at the time, so I just popped the microphone on and went at it. Well, that was a little vocoder moment. Really low in volume. I have a phaser effect that is giving the whole vocal group some filtering motion. And I also have the erosion effect that's adding some hissy noise at certain times. Also right there was a amp effect, which I think just makes the whole vocals cut through even more. Okay, yeah, so right here is the transition moment that I built when I was actually arranging the track. I really just wanted a special moment for one whole 4 count right before the beat drops in. Those were just some reverse risers and a reverse cymbal paired together. This genre wouldn't be nicknamed filter house if there wasn't filtered out moments of the track. I think it's a good way and a great musical device to help build emotion, suggest certain moments or lead up to transitions, and overall, it just breaks up the monotony of a super looped out groove. A good master chain is key to trying to give your creation the fullest hit factor. This is my mastering chain. As you hear with it off, it is so reduced in volume, for example, and also some frequencies are missing. I usually cook up the tracks with the master chain not there, so I have to turn up my speakers or my headphones in order to compensate for that volume that I'm missing. Up until the moment that I put that stuff on the track, and then it just boosts my track so much further. In volume and clarity, that is. Ultimately, it is just an EQ going into compression, going into two different limiters. The first limiter is only doing a little bit, catching kick drums and whatnot, and the second limiter is giving it all the volume. This is the bass sound, by the way. Cloud number 7 setting for Monarch. I don't know why I didn't show you earlier when I was showing you the bass. I'm still getting used to this whole YouTubing thing. If you like this track, you can find it on my Bandcamp, which the link will be in the description of this video. You can also find other tracks that I've made for this YouTube channel on Bandcamp as well.